I'd like to call this meeting of the Northwest Local School District Board of Education to order. Chris, if you would, Amy, call the roll.
Mr. Unger?
Here.
Mr. Harlow?
Here.
Mr. Detzel?
Here.
Mrs. Detzel? Here. Mr. Heather?
Here.
I'd ask that you all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our next item is approval of minutes. Todd?
Yes, this is approval of minutes for the regular meeting on September 21st, 2015. The Treasurer and Superintendent recommend the Board of Education approve the minutes as listed.
So moved. Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Amy, please call for a vote. It's not populating.
Mine was fine. Oh, yeah, it's not fine. Okay.
I keep pushing that.
I'm still on red.
Pam, does yours
I
show that
entered
you...
it 4 times, and it goes away, and then it comes back.
So you go and try to click yes.
She joined the meeting. She did.
And I joined the meeting.
Which is one of the great technological advances we have here at the Northwest Local
we go.
School
There, I
District.
guess.
And the motion carries 5-0. So our next item is approval of more minutes, Mr. Bowling.
Yes, this is the regular meeting for September 28, 2015. The Treasurer and Superintendent recommend the Board of Education approve the minutes as listed.
So moved.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Amy, please call a vote.
There we go.
And the motion carries 5-0.
And the last set of minutes is from September 30th, 2015. The Treasurer and Superintendent recommend the Board of Education approve the minutes as listed.
So moved. Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Amy, please call a vote. And minutes are approved 5-0. Our next item is legislative update by Mr. Harlow.
Okay, so the House and Senate agreed on a charter school reform bill, House Bill 2, will increase accountability, make it easier to close low-performing charter schools. I also wanted to mention that I recently learned about an underutilized employer program in the state of Ohio where the state will pay for 50% of a high school student's wages up to $5,000. Companies would need to apply for the grant. It was in House Bill 107. It was from the previous session. When it passed in 2014, around June or so. It's administered by the Development Services Agency of the state of Ohio, which is probably one reason why it escaped my notice, because it's not administered by the Department of Education. And just wanted to pass that on to employers in the area and students that may be interested in some real-world skills while they're still in high school.
That's fantastic. It is. Jeez.
I'm somewhat familiar with a similar program, Michael, from Ohio Means Jobs. Our company that I work for was approached with that, and while it did not work out for us, the state of Ohio has a fund where they will pay up to the first $5,000 in wages. They will reimburse you. You pay the wages, but they will reimburse your company for that, and that's as opposed to having someone on unemployment compensation. So I think it is a good program, and it sounds similar to what you're talking about. So. Thank you for the legislative update. And our next item is the Butler Tech update. Mr. Detzel.
Yeah, Dan, just one thing, just not, everybody don't forget that the all boards meeting is tomorrow night. And I believe, is everybody, Todd, you're gonna be late?
I'll be a little late. I got to
Okay.
speak at Colerain Business,
Okay.
but then I'll be there.
And,
I will be unable, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm gonna be there.
To see the,
I will be there, Jim.
I did get to see the building.
yeah, that bioscience building is
Bioscience.
very, very nice. If
Very nice.
you guys wanna get up there, just you can call the principal at the school at the bioscience building and she'll give you a tour, and it's really, really nice. I mean, it's a great opportunity for our kids to get in there with those science classes and that, and
What did that cost?
14 million.
And there's
Seems like
There's about 350 kids. Yeah.
plenty
And
of
it's,
land for
it's more, and
expansion,
it's
too.
more like a college atmosphere. It's not your typical classroom after classroom. There's a lot of breakout session rooms and big areas where,
community areas and
yes,
stuff.
yeah, it's not your typical school.
Yeah.
And the automated cadaver
Yeah.
shipping program is really
Yeah.
neat.
Okay, that sounds great, Michael. We'll move right along. The next item is a special report, Mr. Bowling.
Yes, I'll turn this over to Jenny Blust. Or Jenny, would you like me to? I can do it. I'll do it. I would, you know he can. I would like to introduce Mr. Dustin Gehring, principal of White Oak Middle School. He will provide an update on his 2015-2016 building goals.
And is that going to work okay with Waycross? Okay, great.
You can carry it in your hand if you want. I know how you like to move.
I got this reputation. Everywhere I go now around this district, it is, hey, you only get so many minutes. Hey, you need to make sure you calm down. Hey, make sure that you're not getting too excited about what you're talking about. And now it's you walk around too much. All kinds of new things. Well, good evening. Thank you very much. And I do have myself on a nice timer because I do have 10 minutes, and I'm going to try and stick to that because I do get pretty excited about what we're doing at White Oak because we're doing a bunch. And it is a very exciting time to see changes and things that we're doing and how we're attacking some of our gaps in our learning. And so behind you and as well on the screens, there's a couple of pieces that I want to talk about. First of all, regarding our data. We've set some goals this year. Mr. Yater and I have sat down along with Adam Hall, my assistant principal, and we've set a number of goals as a result of last year's achievement. And what you're looking at consistently is the percent of students that are going to meet their growth target. Okay, so for example, if they take a test and sets a target for them to grow so much in a year, and this is the percent of students that actually earn that growth target. So on the right side of the screen, you see 14, 15 results. Just to go through a couple, and I'm not going to read them all to you, but in science, for example, 72% of our students were able to achieve their growth target. In 7th grade science, 63%, and 8th grade science, 49%. And we have set goals this year according to those numbers. So if you look across at the 15-16 goal, in 6th grade, we have set a goal for 77, 7th is 70, and 8th is also 70%. That 70% of our students will achieve their growth goal on their SLO. Okay, so this is a big piece for us, and whether it's using the SLO test itself or that in another screen you'll see in our map results. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, here we go. We also take an assessment called MAP. It's a diagnostic tool that we're using more and more in our building. Last year, you can see the number of students that met their growth target. So in 6th grade, 40%, 7th grade, 47%, 8th grade, 49% of our students. And just to, and I'm not an excuse maker at all, but last year during MAP was the same time that all the new stuff was coming out, and for our students it became a bit of white noise. It was yet another assessment, yet another assessment, yet another assessment. This year we're using it as a real target for our students and our staff, where we can use it as a better diagnostic tool, because when we take the state assessment and then they change their mind, then all of a sudden we lose some of that diagnostic piece. So MAP is going to be a real big push for us. So our goal this year in MAP reading and in math is 60% of our students will meet their growth target. And so the MAP test is a normed test, nationally normed, and they set a standard that says if a student scored this particular RIT score, in a year's time, they will grow this much. So if you have a more advanced student, they understand that you're not going to grow quite as much versus a student that may struggle in the fact that you have more room to grow. And so it adjusts for all of that and it sets targets for our students. Another group that we are particularly looking at, oh, thank you, Mr. Boyne, perfect. Another group that we're looking at for us in particular is our students with disabilities. We have a gap in our achievement between all of our students' scores, which is the screen you saw before, and the students with disabilities scores. We have 126 students in our building that have an IEP, and therefore they account for these numbers. Last year, for example, 38% of our IEP students with disabilities, were able to achieve their growth target, and our goal this year is 60. If you go up to 8th grade, you can see they had a little bit more success with the reading, and this year our goal is 70. And so we've set some pretty high goals. I'm looking at those numbers even now and going, wow, why did I choose that number? No, it's because we need to. That's exactly what we need to do. But they're pretty lofty. So you may be wondering how we're going to do that, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. In addition to that, I saw a number over summer that was kind of staggering for me, and I didn't like it at all, and that is our staff attendance. And I was not pleased with where we sat district-wide or the money that was spent on substitutes for our building. And so we have set some new goals. So staff attendance last year was 92.7%, all staff on an overall daily rate. Our goal this year is 95%, and students is 92.4%, and our goal is 95%. For the staff attendance, we're using an incentive program as well as some conversations that didn't link to their professionalism score and eye observation regarding staff that went above 10 days last year. They're having conversations as well as documentation that happened. And our incentive program, which has worked very well so far this year, we've actually earned our incentive every single week. And that is if we get 95% of our staff in attendance at school, they get a jeans day on Friday. And that's a big deal for them. I don't get to wear jeans, but they get real excited about it. And so we've been able to achieve that goal. So Thursday afternoon, I sit down with my secretary, we crunch the numbers, and then we send out an email and say, hey, you made it, congratulations, enjoy Jeans Day tomorrow. And we've been able to do that. A couple of weeks have been close, but we're doing really well with that. So that was a goal for us. As far as student attendance, we are incentivizing that. A lot of times we do it at the end of the year, but by that point it's too late. So we are going to be doing it quarter by quarter by quarter, not just perfect attendance, but also students that may have missed 1 or 2 days, because they really do count too. You know, if you have your 5 students that make perfect attendance, that's fantastic. It's unbelievable. But we also got to look at the kids that just miss a couple and make sure that we're rewarding them as well. And we do that through incentive programs, sit down, soda with the principal, popsicle with the principal, an extra recess, those kinds of things that we're doing on a quarterly basis. Every quarter is different. So as far as from the classroom standpoint, how are we responding to the data? What do we want to do? And we've set a pretty lofty vision for this year of how we want to change the way we teach at White Oak. Pretty aggressive from an administrative standpoint. You don't hear a lot of principals talk about, you're going to teach this way in my building. We don't tend to have that conversation a lot, but that's just kind of the way I am anyways. And so we started talking about how we want to proceed. First off, we're going to get out of the boat. We're not going to be afraid to change. We're not going to fake it, and that we understand that the best learning is still out there, and we can look that in our numbers and know that it's still out there. We need to accept the fact that we need to meet our students exactly where they are. Our parents are not sending only some of their students to us. They're sending us all of them and their best ones. They're not keeping the best ones at home. So we need to meet them exactly where they are. We need to understand that teaching is a difficult profession, and if you do it right, it's really difficult. And then thirdly, we need to take them from where they are to as far as we possibly can take them every single day in the classroom. And so this is the kind of things that we need to do. And so we set these 4 goals. Every year I set between 3 and 4 goals for the year to say how are we going to change the way we teach at White Oak. This year we're very, very aggressive, and I could see this as a 2-year plan for us because it's a bunch for them to chomp off of. So goals and scales fully implemented. We've been doing that for the last 3 years. I presented that to you recently as of last year about how we're doing goals and scales at White Oak, how we're tracking student progress, and how we're doing those type of things. We're continuing that work. It has to be a focus for us, and so we will continue to do that and even take it even further as we get better and better and better about how to use data in the classroom. The state of Ohio says you have to use data, and the teachers say, what data? And from everybody above us, we talk about the data, the data, the data. This is real, live, active data. As close as you can get to local data is what's happening in the classroom, how did that most recent assessment go, and then, of course, what are you going to do with it? And that gets into the other pieces here. One of the things that we needed to work on was our time management in class, and so we've put a rule that nothing can last more than 20 minutes. We need to change things constantly in our classroom. If you think about commercials on TV, how often does a cartoon change from one thing to another thing to another thing? That is where our students are. And so, unfortunately, we were spending 40 minutes-ish on direct instruction, and that just was too much in a 60-minute class. So we've established a nothing more than 20 rule, meaning that you have to switch gears, you have to change. And we love if you change even in shorter time spans, but just to stay consistent for common language, it's nothing more than 20. Number 3 is let the students do the talking. At middle school level in particular, our learners are socially engaged learners, meaning that they can pick up the most by engaging with their peers and talking through the issues that we're putting in front of them. And to be honest with you, when you think about our country, our number one issue is conflict resolution. We really struggle as a society in how we resolve conflicts. We get to model that every single day in our group work, which is number 4, in the fact that I expect our teachers to put our students in a position where they're going to argue with someone a viewpoint and discuss the answers where one person's right, the other person might also be right, and then you got to find who's the most right. And so we're pushing our teachers to do that, not just for the data, but it's going to help our data, but also to make good people, because we need to be able to do these things. And I know we're all thinking of different people in our lives that struggle with conflict resolution. Well, I'm hoping that the 3 years at White Oak can prove that students can do this without it becoming more aggressive than just a conversation. And they've done it really, really well so far. And that leads to number 4, and I don't mean to go so fast, but I got a short time span. Scale level grouping. So we want to take these scales to the next step. And this is probably the most aggressive piece of the plan, is that I require my teachers to do group work every single day in every single class. Not every once in a while, not tried every third day, or hey, that sounds like a great idea one day. Every single day, you have to put kids together based on their ability. Now, the teacher gets to choose whether it's because they all have the same ability or you're splitting it up because they have different abilities. And how do they know they have that ability? If you go back to number 1, that is goals and scales fully implemented. And that is you're using the goal and scale to decide what group a particular student's going to be in, whether you put all of your kids that are a 2 in the same group and take them to a 3, or you take a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, and you have them work together so that you're bringing up your 1s and 2s, and then you're also pushing your 3s and 4s. And so this is something that's required in our ability. It's a lot of learning for our teachers. It's one thing to find that one Pinterest lesson plan that sounds really great about group work, and another thing for the principal to say, every single day in your classroom you will do these things. And that's exactly what we're doing. And I think the results are going to show, in many ways, in the data itself. Because we can show along the way how we're growing on our goals and scales, because week to week to week, we track that, and I've shown that to you before, how we track our progress along the way. And so from day to week to unit to month, to then year by year, we should be growing, because if you're growing at the small scale, you should be growing at the larger scale. And how are we producing that growth? By doing those 4 things. So we got a big push here at White Oak, and kudos to my teachers for jumping in. They're jumping in 2 feet. They're doing their best with it. Some are further than others, as we would assume would happen. And in January, they get to share with each other what they're doing to accomplish this goal. And we're going to highlight some teachers that are really getting it done well and let them learn from each other. But I really feel like this is going to be a 2-year vision. You'll see some tweaking as we look at next year, but it's going to take us a little while to do this on an every single day basis. And then, of course, I just have some description on each piece, and I'm just going to fly through it real quick. Just again, the 60 minutes broken down into segments. And all of this goes right back to their eye observation evaluation. So I never like to do something just because it's in the evaluation, but this is also in the evaluation. And so they know that these are elements that I'm looking for every time I'm in the classroom. So 7, 15, 21, talk about students working together. Go back a step, nothing more than 20 is 28. That's keeping a lively pace. And then, of course, we have evaluation element 1 and 2 for goals and scales. Now, I'm speaking of that because I'm very fluent in it, and I know that not everybody in the room is. It's a system that we use through Bob Marzano to evaluate our teachers, and it kind of gives us some magnifying glasses to looking at certain things that are the highest quality elements in a classroom. And so these things all connect to those piece by piece by piece. And then, of course, scale level grouping is element 2, where we're actually using those scales to group kids. So that's me, and that's 10 minutes. How about that? Not too bad. I appreciate you guys so much. Hey, come out to White Oak anytime. I'd love to show you everything that we're doing, because we're doing a bunch, okay? So stop on by.
Dustin, I do have a quick question on the statistic on the 95% goal for attendance for teachers. I'm sure we have plenty of folks there that are there every day,
Yep.
all 185 days, however many it is. And so there must be some that are dragging the average down. That's just an average. If I come in every other day, I'm going to look around and see
Sure.
one person missing, or if I come in every day, there's probably a couple that
we are an
I'd like to recognize the ones that are there every day.
We are an organization no different than every other organization. And that is 95% of your population is doing it just right, and 5% of your population you got to really get after to get that stuff done. In addition to that, the reality is we've had quite a few life circumstances, as every organization has. We are not different than others. We've had a lot of family things, a lot of pregnancies. I have 5 staff members out right now on maternity leave. I just came back from paternity leave. So there's a lot of things happening at White Oak, and we're having a lot more warriors, if you will. But to answer your question more directly, I would say the answer is no, to be honest with you. I'm not going to stand here and tell you there's 1 or 2 staff members that are really dragging it all down. We're too big of an organization for that just to be how it's working. But the people that are absent frequently are being held accountable district-wide, not just at White Oak, because we've set some things in place to make sure anybody that's 10 or more days outside of FMLA are having conversations with administrators, and they're getting documented into their professionalism piece of it. And at the end of the year, we come back and we do the same thing with a score that then does have impact on their evaluation. And so I think a big chunk for us is that the teachers are going, wow, they're really looking, they're really looking, they're really looking. And if we do it right, look what he's doing for us. Look what he's doing for us. And so we have gift cards, we have celebrations, we have Jeans Days. All those things are coming in place for those staff members that are getting it done right.
I have a question. It's kind of a two-part. It has a lot to do with the MAP achievement rates and everything. If a student is making proficient or making the grade on the MAP, does that set them up as a very likely candidate to be proficient or higher on the state test, and if the group as a whole gets that 60-70%, is that going to help you make your goals, maybe to get a C, let's say, on the value add for the state?
I think there's 2 things to talk about with that. One is growth, which is actually our students making their achievement of how much they're supposed to grow over time. And then when we talk about the word achievement, we talk about hitting a certain score to say, yes, you passed. To answer both those questions, the answer is yes. If we're growing as an organization, all of our kids, and we're hitting those growth targets, 1, we will get our growth as a school, and then number 2, we will reach our achievement, because many of our kids are really, really close to that, what we used to call the 400 mark in the OA. Under the new assessment, I don't know the particular number that they're using to say, yes, you passed. But every time we're doing this kind of thing, we're bumping that direction.
So they're pretty well aligned in other words.
Yes, they are. Yes, that's true. Now, I can't speak to a perfect alignment, and I'm not there yet. In fact, I don't think the state's there yet. We're still working on that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you for your time.
Thank you
I do
for a great
appreciate it.
presentation.
All right.
Yeah, if I could just chime in. I mean, as a superintendent, you want administrators who, 1, know where to get the data from, and then when we pass the data to them, they can talk about it, and a lot of people can talk about it, but Dustin's actually making improvements in his building where he's changing what they're doing in his building. As you saw, he tied Marzano into it. He's differentiating instruction with the 20-minute rule, changing things around. So it's not somewhere where I sit with some principals and they can talk about the data and it's great. Dustin does more than just talk about it. He goes in, he interacts with it, and his staff has been asked to do a lot. And through his cheerleading, through his support for them, they are adjusting. They do feel supported as a staff, and what he's got them doing, I would expect nothing but higher scores to come out of there. So I'm really proud of the job he's doing, and he's what makes being a superintendent easy.
Thank you very much. Moving right along to our next item, a report from employee organizations. Is there anyone here that is a part of an employee, certificated licensed employee organization that would like to speak? Seeing no one, we will move on to classified employee organization. Is there anyone here that would like to speak? Seeing no one. Report from school-related organization. Is there anyone here that would like to speak? I see no one. Community comments. Did we get any yellow cards, Amy? So no one has requested to speak from the community, so we will move on to our next item, which is a certificated licensed personnel item, Mr. Bowling.
Yes, this is certificated licensed personnel retirements and resignations. You will find 3 certificated resignations, 1 home instructor procedural resignation, 3 extra duty resignations, 2 athletic event worker resignations, and 13 extra duty procedural resignations. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the certificated licensed personnel retirements and resignations as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Amy, please call a vote. The motion carries 5-0. Our next item, Mr. Bowling, classified personnel.
Yes, this is classified retirements and resignations. You will find 5 classified resignations, 1 classified substitute procedural resignation. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the classified retirements and resignations as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Amy, please call a vote. The motion carries 5-0. Fiscal item, Mr. Bowling.
Yes, the next is vendor contracts. We have 6 vendor contracts for approval. The superintendent and treasurer recommend the Board of Education authorize the vendor contracts as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? I'd just like to point out that this information has been posted since Friday, and anyone's able to look at this. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none. Amy, please call a vote. Motion carries 5-0. Our next items are certificated licensed personnel item, Mr. Bowling.
Yes, for certificated licensed personnel items, we have 12 approvals of extra duty contracts, 2 approvals of athletic event workers, 6 winter music assistants, 4 winter music leaders, 2 winter music specialists, and a resolution to hire non-licensed coaches. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the certificated licensed personnel items as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Amy, please call a vote. The motion carries 5-0. Classified personnel item, Mr. Bowling.
Yes, you will find 4 initial appointments, 1 approval of classified substitutes at various rates, and 2 approvals of change in status. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the classified personnel items as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Amy, please call a vote. Motion carries 5-0. General business item, Mr. Bowling.
Yes, just wanted to take a few minutes to discuss the master facility plan update. First of all, the next board meeting will be getting dates together to start interviewing the CMR after the bond levy passes. So I'll establish some dates with you so we can get that started immediately afterwards. I also wanted to touch base with some questions that we've been having revolving around the bond issue that is out there. Again, just reminding folks that we're removing a 4.52 renewal and replacing it with a 2.82 bond and a 1.0 operating levy. I think Mr. Detzel hit on it earlier at our forum that if this levy does not pass, the 4.52 renewal levy that we're replacing, the district will lose $6 million. If it does pass, a $100,000 homeowner will have their school taxes go down $4. And for a $150,000 home, their school taxes will go down $7. I've had a lot of questions at the Pleasant Run Farms about Welch, and then some from community members around Beavis. What will occur with those 2 schools? There are plans put into place. If it passes, they will be demolished after we follow what we have to do with the state guidelines. For the rest of the district, a reminder that everyone will get $1 to $3 million in renovations. Think warm, safe, and dry. By going to the 3 K-5 buildings, we'll be able to offer all-day kindergarten, which is very important. We want to get those little ones in school as soon as possible. And if you're a parent, think about daycare. It's going to help you out there also, so we'll take any little help we can. We have some big dates coming up. If you're a registered voter, we'll be knocking on your door Saturday, October 24th. We're doing a door-to-door flyer distribution. So anybody would like to help with that, you just show up at Northwest High School or Colerain High School at 10 o'clock. We will do a phone call bank on Thursday, October 29th, and Monday, November 2nd. We will be calling every registered voter and reminding them to vote. So those are some big things we have. On top of that, the same evening, October 29th and November 2nd, we will be doing Crowd the Corner and working on that. We've had some other questions about Colerain L and Colerain Middle and how did they get lost, so I left off the list. So I did explain to those parents, and it was very well received. that we went through a process where our architects went in each building to see what it cost to renovate versus what it would cost to replace. And Colerain L and Colerain Middle came in at about 69 or 70%, and the other buildings that are being replaced were at a much higher percentage. We will be putting air conditioning in Colerain Elementary, so that is different from last time. And I think the biggest thing is like you guys have said, but I'm not sure everybody's listening, the board came together and voted 5-0, and you decided and made a great choice to lower the bond in May from 85 million to 75, or 85 million to 75 million, and take $10 million out of the general fund. So you did that so you could lower taxes for taxpayers. As Mr. Unger said, 1979 was the last time that occurred, but this is probably the only time you're going to hear in the future of a surrounding school district that you can vote for new schools and renovations and lower the taxes at the same time. I just encourage anybody with questions to please give me a call. I can be reached daily, an email, anything we can do to try to get the word around. Board members have letters that they've put on our website for Vote Yes Northwest. So everything's out there. We just want to make sure that we answer all questions that are out there. So please don't hesitate. And I just wanted to take a few minutes. And if there's anything you guys want to add to that, just open it up.
First thing, I wrote a letter to the Northwest Press, and one thing I did, oh, thanks, Todd. One thing that I don't know how I forgot it. I put down 2.82 for bond issue and 1 mil for operating, and that comes out to be 3.82, I believe. And we were back in May when we lost by just a couple hundred votes. We were 4.35, and I should have put that so people could see. But the reason the taxes all didn't go down in May was because the state law, Michael might be able to address, on credits and homestead and all this stuff. So some people really, we thought when we voted, everybody was getting a tax reduction, but they weren't. And we did not, we weren't able to put on our signs, "Will not raise your taxes." And this time, everybody absolutely will get a tax reduction, so those are on the signs. And I think that's a big part why that thing failed.
I just like to add too, I mean, yes, a $100,000 home, I think Todd said it'll go down $4, and a $150,000 home, what was it, $7? But more importantly, as a property owner, your property values are going to go up. So that $4 or that $7 is so minimal, but what it's going to do to finally get our property values back to where they should be and bring new people into the schools and be able to keep our staff instead of losing staff members to neighboring school districts that can afford to pay them more. They can go to neighboring school districts where they feel like they're supported more by the community. It's time that this community supports our schools, and everybody will be wanting to move into here.
I would just like to add that this is for the construction of assets for this community that will be around long after the five of us are gone and everybody in this room is gone. These buildings, this is a permanent improvement to build some new school buildings, the ones that were built in the late 1950s, which was before I was alive, and these will be around after I'm gone. And this is if you're really on the fence thinking about what you're going to do with it, just consider that this is a community asset. Maybe you're not using the schools right now. Maybe your kids are grown and out of the house, but like Mr. Detzel, his grandson's coming along, and they'll be around for him. And because we're doing this as a bond issue, his grandson will get a chance to pay for it also towards the end of the bond. Which means, and the side of that is we're not asking everybody right now to pay for this. This is spread out amongst the people who will be using it for the next 40 to 50 years, and 1 mil of this is going into operations. The bigger part of it is going to replace these community assets, and I really do think it will draw new people into Colerain and Green and Springfield Township, and I think it'll have a positive impact, just like if you repaved the roads or you built a new firehouse or you did anything else. This is a brick and mortar community asset that'll be around for a long time.
I'd just like to add, I'd just like to add one thing. When I was in college and I was a tour guide, the vice president for student affairs stopped me one day right after I finished a tour, and he says, "You know what?" Points out, he says, "You know what the best recruiting tool we have here is?" And I'm thinking he's going to say something about our athletic program, and we are ranked 22nd in the country right now, the University of Toledo, by the way. But we are. But you know what he said? He said he pointed to a sign that said "under construction," and you know what? He's absolutely right. People see the under construction, see the investment that they're making in the community. You know, the university was making back then. The community could be making here now, and it's an absolute magnet.
I think everybody's had a chance to weigh in, so I appreciate all the comments. And we will move along to our next item, which is community communications. Is there anyone in the audience that has a question or comment specific to the things we have discussed this evening? And seeing no one, we will move along to other board items, Mrs. Detzel.
Had the opportunity over the last 2 weeks to attend both Northwest and Colerain homecoming. Northwest, it was a little cold, but they did a great job. Want to thank anybody that's never done that. It is so much work. And to see the parents and community members that pull together to pull off these homecoming parades, and for everybody that's so generous to use the convertibles, especially with Northwest, where it was a little misty and rainy, and they still had those tops down so those girls could be in the parade, and it was a great night. Our grandson, who was only 5 weeks old, did get to ride in the Colerain parade. Would have come with Northwest, but it was too cold. So we did already introduce him to his future principal at Montfort Heights. So yes, we definitely want this levy to pass for so many reasons. But yes, the kids that are just being born now are really going to benefit from all of this, and all the new families that are going to move in. It's an exciting time for this district.
Thank you, Pam. Mr. Heater?
I didn't get to make the parade, but I made the game, sat next to Michael. Wanted to say a couple things about the Colerain game on Friday night. Number one, how the kids were, there must have been 40 candidates for king and queen. I've never seen so many. And they were lined from like the 10-yard line to the 10-yard line. And just how well they represented our community. Clean-cut kids, every one of them. Michael and I were saying some of them looked like they were 35 years old, others looked like they were 10. But it was just an amazing group of kids, and it was no trouble, absolutely no trouble, just so well run. The new message board, we're still learning it. My operator is, you got to put these things to the right pixel size or they don't look right. And so we're getting it down and it's starting to look a lot better, and the animations are looking better, and hopefully it's adding something to the game, but it's a lot more complicated. The guy who sold us a sign, I hope it'll be different with our architects and builders, but he sold us a sign, got his check from Amy, trained us for a half hour and was gone, and we haven't heard from him since. Did call him a few times, and he was quick to get back, but he subsequently broke his hip and has been in a real bad way. So we've been having to call the 800 number. And as advertised, they said Yesco, who does 70% of the Las Vegas signs, they're located out in Utah. They made our sign. They said 24/7. They are there 24/7 because I have called at 1 in the morning, and they do answer the phone, and they're very helpful. So if it doesn't look quite right, we're still learning. Should be hopefully good to go for that first playoff game, the home field advantage playoff game.
Chris, it was looking good today because we were at cross-country practice and it was working.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, looked
Yeah,
good.
yeah, got a lot of advertisers too, Jim.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not going to take that one.
Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, I just want to say I had a great time at the Colerain homecoming. Didn't get back in town in time for the parade, which is unfortunate. Brought my son along. He had a real good time too, and it was really impressive to see all the candidates for homecoming court. And it was a great game too, and it's a really exciting time to be around here.
Yeah, I just want to say also, concur what everybody said about the parades. It was fun and all that. And I just want to make sure everybody out in the public vote yes on November 3rd for the levy. Thanks.
Thank you, Jim. About a month ago, switching gears, I did go over to White Oak Middle School and saw Mr. Gehring's presentation on, I guess it was Parent Night, and yes, he is an animated character that has no problem drawing the attention of everyone in the room, and he's loud and excited, and he didn't have a 10-minute limit over there, so it went on quite a while, but not too many people left, and I think you're doing a fine job over there. I think you looks like things are on the right track, so congratulations to you. And with that, we will move on to the next item, which is a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Amy, please call a vote. A motion to adjourn carries 5-0. This meeting is adjourned.